There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Yes, you are welcome here. You are welcome to this place. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are at this very moment in time. Let's fix this a little bit. The camera. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Let me move back a little bit. Yeah, how about that? Is that better? Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Yeah, thank you very much. I got eyes in all the right places. Yes, thank you for tuning in to yourself first, because that's important. You got to tune into yourself on a daily basis. Sometimes you may re-tune into yourself because things happen that just takes you out of yourself. And when you tune in, you can listen. When you listen, you make yourself available. You create the space to be transformed. Now, transformation ain't all that sometimes. Sometimes it's like, ow, it's too hot. And sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm so glad this transformation is happening. I see the difference. I'm embracing this moment. Thank you for saying yes. I am Ade, your transformational beingness artist. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of Being You. Ade Presents Being You, the journey back to yourself, where we get to remind one another. I get to remind myself. You get to remind yourself. We get to remind one another that I am present. So are you. I am here. So are you. And I am now. And if you hear that, that's the voice of the divine, the voice of spirit speaking to you, speaking to us. I am present. I am here. I am now. You do that, that's a way of tuning into yourself, especially when you're feeling nervous, excited, or even if you're feeling joyful, you're feeling excited. Just take a moment. I am present. I am here. And I am now. And this show is Season 3, Episode 23, Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Being You podcast is an invitation. The conversation is to invite you to take a look at how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you see yourself in the world, and how you see the world in you. When you do that, you get a new perspective. The theme is being free. Freedom ain't free. You got to do the work. And it's a day-to-day thing. If you want to be free, it's an everyday thing. You keep doing whatever you need to do, your spiritual practice, to remind you of your birthright, that you're already free. This is not some woo-woo pie in the sky kind of ideology. This is the truth. But you only get to know it when you practice it. Some people say, love. Well, we need more than love. Ooh, love is all there is. And the deeper you go into love, you recognize, you remember that love is everything. And it's calling you forth and calling you out, inviting you to show up and step out. I'm talking about matured love. Not the airy-fairy, I love you as long as you do what I like. I love you as long as you do things the way I like it. No, it's a choice to love, even when they're not doing what you like. When they're not doing things that make you happy. You choosing to love them. Why? Because you know you're connected to them. Because you know you're part of the master plan. And if you don't love them, you know that if you don't love them, you're disconnecting yourself from yourself. To not love is to disconnect. To love is to reconnect. So really, all the spiritual practice, it's a selfish act. You're doing it for you. Whether you're being kind, being generous, you're doing it for you. Yes, they're going to appreciate it or not. But you are the first to feel the result of your givenness. It's law. It's the way it is. We can't have in the world what we're not willing to become. So whatever you want to see more of, you have to become it. You have to go deeper. And life will support you in taking you deeper. Just remember to take a breath. I want to invite you to join us on our main page on Facebook, facebook.com, Being You Podcast. And also, you can find us on YouTube, which is, what's the link? youtube.com/LC Radio. Don't worry about it. Just go with it. youtube.com LC Radio. You see all the shows, they're archived there. We invite you to like and subscribe on Facebook. We also invite you to like and subscribe on YouTube and like and share on Facebook. And especially like and share this show. Share it. Let the world know what is real, what is true. Because as we share the story and tell our stories, that means you get to do less work and having to convince or show a different perspective, because your sharing is sending out the vibration into the ethers. Like, this is some good juju. Y'all need some of this. And when you like it, when you share it, you're letting the algorithm know. It's like, oh my God, I've been sleeping on the job. Ade's podcast. I haven't been sharing this for a while. Okay, I need to do it because you're sharing it. So it's a human act. It's a godly act. It's a friendly act. Anyway. What is it now? It's time for announcements. I want to invite you to take a look at libsyn.com, libsyn.com. I partner with them. If you're a podcaster, you're looking for a podcast host, you've been researching, want to start a podcast, libsyn.com, libsyn.com. I partner with them, and that means because we get to, no, don't say that. Because I partner with them, let's just stay there. You get to reap the benefit of my love partnering with them. Make sure you use my promo code, which is, I'm anointing you, Ade. Ade, depends on where you are from. If you're from Nigeria, it's Ade. If you're in the Western world, it's Ade or Ade. But don't you dare say Ade if you're going to jack it up. But you don't have to worry about saying it. Just spell it ADE. You'll get 1 month free. Now, depending on when you sign up. If you sign up today, you get the rest of this month free. And then next month, you get the whole of next month free. Don't sign up on the first of the month. If you do, you get few hours free and then the next month free. Complicated? Send me a message. Just use the promo code. It's free anyway. Don't trip. Just trust. Wednesday evening, join me, Ricky Byers, Ricky Byers and I, for Soulful Feeling. Soulful music, soulful conversations every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and 2 a.m. UK time, where we take you on a journey within yourself. Leave you feeling much more inspired, elevated, vibrating at a higher frequency than you did when you came in. Trust me. Check it out. And if you want to try it out, it's archived. You can go to Ricky's YouTube page, youtube.com/Ricky Byers. It's Ricky, not with an I, RICKIE, Byers. Oh, wait, how'd you spell Ricky's name again? I am just drawing a blank. Okay, I'm going to go to Google. Oh, okay, Mercury drew too much. I'm going to blame him. Yes, B-A. No, that's not it. I know you're probably telling me, Salty. Thank you. Yeah, I know it is, but I see it in my head, but my mouth is like, don't you dare spell it like that. So it's RICKIE BYARS. I don't know. So check it out. Now, one last thing I need to tell you, actually 2 things I need to tell you, and then I'm going to bring on my brother because I'm very excited to have him. You won't think I am, but I just want to give you the information. You need to know this, because if you don't, then you're going to come back and say, why did you tell us? You should have told us. I wanted to be there. Now I'm telling you. The place you got to be is next Saturday, representing our ancestors, representing our stories. Link is bit.ly/represent vision. Or represent vision if you want. bit.ly/represents vision. This is the final installment of this first go around of representing our ancestors, representing our stories. We started 3 months ago. Masankho joined me last month, and the theme for last month was telling a new story. This month we are catching a vision for a new generation. What you want to see in the world, what you want to see in your life, what you want for your children, your grandchildren, what you want for, as my brother Masankho would say, the future ancestors. You got to envision it now. You got to catch it now. You are the one creating the life they're living into. So join us as we create a vision for a new generation. bit.ly/represent vision. Saturday, June 19th. 2021, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. Yes, June 19th, Juneteenth. Let's be free. Let's claim that freedom. Let's claim our truth. The theme today, the topic today is the healing power of storytelling. What's your story? How are you living? What legacy are you creating right now for those to come? Just think about that. And when you come up with an answer, I invite you to take the plunge. You like that? Speaking of taking the plunge, join me for taking the plunge with Liz Dilnot. Okay, Dilnot. Dilnot. Yeah, I'm just not with names today. I don't know what's going on. I guess I can barely pronounce mine, huh? To find out more about it, go to bit.ly/TTP Liz. TTPLIZ. So that's TT, take the plunge, Liz, LIZ, or LIZ. That's July 8th. Join us and go to the page and read more about it. It is me. She's interviewing me, and we're talking about living as a creative artist, living life in the times where life kind of shifts and you got to adjust. Sometimes you just know it's time to take the plunge. You don't know if you're going to drop. You don't know if you're going to fly. You don't know if something's going to catch you. But you just know your only option is to take the plunge. So you got to jump. Jump, jump, jump. My brother Masankho is in the house. I love him. I love how he shows up. There's so many things I could say. I say it when I'm bringing money. I want to say it now. But let me read a little bit about him. Masankho K. Banda learned the fine arts of storytelling and dance from his elders. In their company, he spent many long days and nights listening to stories and dancing to music that captivated his mind, nourished his soul, and strengthened his spirit. Masankho chose to devote his life to using dance, theater, music, drumming, and storytelling to inspire people of all ages to work together to bring about peace, social justice, and cultural understanding. Masankho currently lives in Malawi, Central Africa, where he continues to work for peace, justice, and cross-cultural healing using the arts. And he lives there, but he's traveling, not just through Zoom, but he travels physically. And this is a message. This is a message that he carries. As I said earlier, he co-led with me last month and going to be leading the final installment of Representing Our Ancestors, Representing Our Stories, this coming Saturday. You will see why we lead together and why I love him. There's something about him. He comes in quiet. I know sometimes when we were preparing, him and I were preparing to meet, and I'm like, am I making sense to Masankho? I'm like, do you get it? It's like, yeah. And just kind of like listening. And then on the day on the event, I'm like, damn, it took it to the next level. Welcome, New Jays. Welcome, Kwali. Welcome, everyone who is listening. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, psychics and skeptics, physical beings and non-physical beings, help me welcome my brother, myself, my friend, my fellow certified InterPlay leader, Masankho Banda. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm happy to have you here, and I'm curious and excited to see what happens because
Wonderful.
you know you come with it. Oh, you're welcome. And listeners, to find out more about my brother Masankho, you can go to his website. It is You Can Dance Without the E. What? You
That's
can.
right.
You CANDANC.org. How are you doing, my brother? How is life treating you?
I'm doing
what
great,
stories
my brother. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's good to have you. Yes, 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 Sati. Yes, yes. Oh, I love this. Talk about stories and the stories that we tell without verbalizing it. We just feel the story.
That's right. That's right.
You're doing a lot. You've been doing a lot anyway. You travel a lot, and particularly between Malawi, which is a country, and the continent Africa, for those who think, Africa is a country. I'm just letting you know it's a continent. But you travel a lot. You travel to a lot. You travel to America, do lots of work, and there's a lot that we're going through and growing through. And in the talking about stories, how do you see the story that's being woven together right now? How do you see it as a storyteller?
Well, It's a complex story because it is something that is happening in real time. Storytellers often look back. They share stories that they grew up with. They share cultural stories that have been handed down. But right now, we are in the middle of a story. And it's a story that has, in a way, taken us by surprise. You know, nobody knew that March 2020 was going to be the way that it was. And nobody knew that the year would unfold in the way that it has. The
Exactly.
word ventilator has now become part of our language. The word oxygen, I mean, you know, you take it for granted that you breathe. And for many of us, that was no longer something you took for granted. So the word ventilator, the word ICU bed, you know, so we are living this story that is both personal and global, that is
Yes.
national and international, that is it crosses boundaries, it crosses cultures, it crosses ethnicity. I don't think the world has experienced something like this. There was the H1N1 and there was Ebola, but none of them really rose to this extent, where borders were closed, people could not talk to each other. People could
Right.
not see each other. Virtual weddings became the norm. Virtual meetings became the norm. I mean, I've learned so much about this little square in the last year that I did my entire life.
That's
So
right.
it's yeah, it's fascinating, sometimes sad. When we have recovered, there's joy. First wave, second wave, and now we're looking at, in many countries, a third wave and variant. And, so as a storyteller, it's like, which way should I dance? What is it that I can convey? And they say that incident plus time makes comedy. Well, in the same way, incident plus time makes stories. So 2 years from now, 5 years from now, when we are in whatever the new normal will be,
Yeah.
that's when the stories will come out of this pandemic.
Yeah.
And what happened? Where were you? What happened in your country, what happened in your state, you know so it's unprecedented. And books are going to be written, movies are going to be written. I mean, some people were saying that the movies were already written, because there are those movies like Contagion, that came out, I think, like 10, 15 years ago. And I mean, even Bob Marley, if you look at Bob Marley's music, there is one of his songs where he talks about the air that we can't breathe.
Wow.
Prophet,
Yes.
So yeah, unprecedented time, totally
Yes.
unprecedented time.
Yes. Life is always speaking, huh? Life is always communicating. God is always broadcasting, and we got to pay attention.
That's right.
We got to
That's
pay
right.
attention. And I feel like
Yes.
storytelling is that way of paying attention. I want to say,
Yes.
but I want to
Yes.
kind of go backwards a little bit. I remember when you shared that the shortest distance between two people is a story.
It's
And
a
if we
story.
spend more
Yeah.
time to hear each other's story, we will show up differently. We will live differently. We will live differently.
Yes.
I want to come back to that, but before I go to that, I want to kind of roll it back. In your bio, we talked about your bio talks about you listening to your elders, um, and what I
Yes.
know about you, the place that you draw from is very rich, is very deep.
Yes.
Um, And I think sometimes in the world we live in, there's so many distractions that we get distracted from the stories that really are being told, that really are answers to what were the questions we're asking. But for you, you grew up, you were cultivated, you were programmed, you were prepared for this time. Tell us about your journey growing up, listening to your elder's story, and maybe the time, maybe there was a time when you said to yourself, I gotta keep this alive.
Yes, I grew up, as you can see on the screen. I'm from Lilongwe in Malawi, which is in Central Africa. And I am a 60s baby. I was born in 1962. We had just transitioned from being under British colonial rule and became an independent country. And so we were telling the story of independence. We were
Mm,
telling the story of escaping a colonial power that sought to suppress us, a
yeah.
colonial power that did not allow us to grow into who we knew we could be.
Mm,
And in that transition, and as we became independent, it was very clear for us and to us that we needed to write a new story.
mm,
Now, as people may or may not know, the history of Africa has recently been put to pen and paper. But
mm,
for the longest time, it was carried in here.
mm,
Parents told their children, those children told their children, so on and so on and so forth. And so, even though I was growing up in independent, quote unquote, modern Malawi,
mhm,
Blantyre, an urban city with all of the trappings of being in an urban city, my
mm,
focus being on school, but I say to people, I feel very fortunate because I grew up in a city, but I spent a considerable amount of time in the village, far away from traffic lights and tarmac roads and buildings. I mean, when I was growing up in the village, we didn't even have running water and electricity. We used candles and we drew water from the well. But
wow.
in the village,
And that was
my
what, in the 60s, huh?
yes, yes, yes. And to this day, I mean, there are still some places, Malawi is now undergoing a big rural electrification program, but there's still many places in Africa where there's no running water and there's no electricity. And so, but my parents and my grandparents really took time to make sure that we understood our heritage, to make sure that we understood where we came from. And so they would sit down and tell us stories. My father, Aleke Banda, was born in Malawi but went to Zimbabwe, where his father sought to get work and he worked in the mines. And so they worked in Zimbabwe. His father was a watchman and at some point a policeman. And then my father got involved in the whole freedom movement
Mm,
and was expelled at the age of 19 back to Malawi, where he
mm,
began together with Orton Chira and Dunduzu Chisiza and other people the fight for Malawi's independence. And
mm,
so our parents made sure that we understood the story of our history, the story of
mm,
our heritage. But at the same time, they not only focused on that transition, but they would also tell us stories that had been handed down, stories of, kings and royalty and people who mattered. So as a child, I grew up in this very rich crucible is the word that comes to mind, where I was taught and stories were shared with me. You know, when I when I tell children, when I go to elementary schools and high schools to do storytelling, to do African dance, when I tell children that I never saw television until I was 25, they say to me, well, what did you do for entertainment?
Mm,
My father, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, that was my television, you
mm,
know. So they told us stories that kept us entertained and taught us valuable life lessons.
mm,
Most of what I know about being a good human being comes from the stories that I heard when I was a kid. Yes, there was church and the Bible, and that played a very big role, but stories
mm,
played also a very big role in shaping me as a human being with my brothers and my sisters. It was, I mean, invaluable what I learned at the feet of my grandmother and my grandfather and my father and my mother and my uncle and my auntie. It was invaluable. And
yes.
so, to answer your question, I knew that I wanted to make that an integral part of my life.
Mm,
When I was in school, yes, we were told as children, focus on English and focus on math and geography and history and physics and chemistry. But I knew it was like, yes, that was important. But I knew that I loved to sing. And so I nurtured that. I
mm,
knew that I loved to dance. I nurtured that. I knew that. So in elementary school, in high school, I was always in the school choir. I was always in the school musical or theater, and I was always in the dance. And
mm,
that took me through elementary school. And here's the thing, it helped me when I was down. As a child, you get down. You wouldn't think it because I'm a performing artist, but I'm a very shy person. But I get on stage and I light up. You
yes.
know, give me a microphone or just give me a stage. Doesn't even have to have a microphone, and I light
Hmm.
up. And
Hmm.
I know that that really helped me. I
Yes.
mean, it's not the focus of this time, but we went through a really hard time. My father, because of his belief in peace and justice, and because he was, anti-corruption, he suffered. I mean, he spent 12 years as a political prisoner. He went to prison when I was 18, you
Mm,
know, and spent 12 years as a political prisoner just for believing in peace and justice.
mm,
So against that backdrop, it was music, it was dance, and it was stories that helped me to get through. And so I knew that I wanted my life to be about helping people get through with music, dance, and storytelling.
mm. What a story. What a story. No pun intended. What a story. I was on a journey with you. I was seeing all sorts of things. Things were coming alive in me. And it's interesting that, I get it when children said, so what did you do without television? But
Right.
television is just another way of telling stories. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
it's just telling stories. And some of the stories are
Right.
like, I'd rather not listen to that stories. And some of the stories are affirming. They open our world. They open our minds up to the
Hmm.
world. And
Hmm. Hmm.
there's so many places I want to go with you, but you mentioned your grandfather's name that made me remind me of a question that I always ask my guests that I didn't ask you. So I want to go back to that. You know, the whole process of being you, this podcast, the intention is to remind people to understand, to embrace all that they are, the good, the
Hmm.
bad, the ugly, and the impact that
Yes.
we have on others, the good, the bad, the
Exactly.
ugly, right? And for me, I feel like our names is our soul signature. Our names represent something deeper in us. Sometimes a name goes before us, before we
Hmm.
get there.
Hmm.
In America,
Yes.
say if you have a name that's kind of more African American, more black, you're less likely to get an interview just from a name. So their parents will give their children a name that is not so black in order for them to
Right.
get through the door.
Yes,
And
exactly.
names have meaning. That's, countries in Africa. That's it's like to go to a country in Africa and say, yeah, names have meaning. They're like,
Yeah.
yes, McDonald's sells French
Yeah.
fries. Big deal, you know. But in some other countries, Western world, sometimes like my name don't mean anything, and people are having to either give themselves a name that means something to them, that represents them. So what I want to ask you is, what's the meaning of your names? All of it. I want the meaning of the first name, the middle name, and the last name, and whatever else you want to share.
Right. Well, as I said, I was born in 1962. And in 1962, we were making our transition from being under colonial power to becoming independent. And I was actually born 15th of August, 1962, on the first anniversary of the first time that Malawians could actually vote for their own representatives in
Wow.
parliament. You know how, yeah, parliament in UK, you have parliament in the US, they call it Congress. So they could vote for their own representatives. So I was born on the first anniversary of the first time that Malawians could actually be selected or elected into parliament. So my first name means election, Masankho, the act
Wow.
of choosing,
The
because I
act of
was
what?
born on the first anniversary of this very important time in
So you said
Malawi's
the act
history.
of something. You said the act of what?
Choosing, electing.
Choosing. Got it. Okay.
Yes,
Oh wow.
choosing. So
Yeah.
Masanko is the act of carrying out elections.
Wow.
Now, my middle name, Kamsisi, means a small root. Now, when you plant a seed, you put it in the soil, and the seed follows water and light and comes out as a plant. And so, because I was born at a time when we were putting ourselves in the soil of independence and going towards the light of freedom, I was given the name Kamsisi.
Mm,
And Banda means a group of people. So a
mm,
banda is a group of people.
mm,
So my grandmother, when I was 5, said to me, somewhere, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, when I was a young boy, said to me, your name, choosing new beginnings for groups of people who
mm,
are seeking freedom.
mm.
So that's my name because I was born at that time. And she said to me, I see your love of story. I see your love of dance. I see your love of music. And you are going to use those arts to help people who are choosing new beginnings towards freedom.
Mm,
She said, that is your job if you choose to have it.
mm.
So I am actually an embodiment of my name
Yes, you are.
because that's what I've done for the
Oh,
past 40 years.
yes.
Whether it's in Brazil, in Germany, in Texas, in Malawi, in Sierra Leone, in Ghana. I've yet to go to Nigeria, but I know that's going to happen soon.
Mm,
In Croatia, all of the places where I've gone, I've used music, dance, and story with communities and individuals who are seeking freedom from
mm,
wherever they are to wherever they want to go. Freedom from drugs, freedom from alcoholism, freedom from abuse, freedom from lack of education, freedom from lack of direction,
mm.
freedom that comes when you say to somebody, let's go on the journey that you want. I am here to walk with you, side by side. I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to pull you. I'm going to walk with you side by side.
Mm,
Tell me your story now. Tell me what you want your story to be, and let's see how we can get
mm.
there.
Just gotta breathe that in.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, what touches me about your story, what you just shared about your name, and I often say sometimes my former wife, Ambassador, she used to say to me many, many years ago, 10 years, 15 years ago, like, you're a storyteller. And I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, you are. And for me, then
Right.
a storyteller was one that comes to the stage like, once upon a time there was a
Once
turtle
upon
and
a
a rabbit.
time.
And, you know, it's like, and the children. I'm thinking, I'm not a storyteller because I'm gonna forget the lines if I go somewhere else. I don't know. I don't think I can keep that information in my head. But over the years, I've come to realize I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am a storyteller.
Yes.
And there's
Mhm,
stories of my
mhm.
ancestors, stories of Nigeria, stories of my culture, my own story, my own experience that I didn't really have language for. And the journey that
Yes.
I've gone through has brought me to a place where those stories are really returning me back to myself, returning me home. So when I listen to you, it's like I just feel fed. And I think there's so many
Right.
things I want to ask you. I want to ask a little bit about the process of naming ceremony in Malawi, but maybe we'll come back to that. But I want to keep with this theme of storytelling because the topic is the healing power of storytelling. And some people may be like, oh, it's just a story. You hear somebody's story and it feels good and you go about your business. What are your thoughts? I definitely believe that storytelling is healing. Sharing our stories is very healing. What are your thoughts about the healing power of storytelling?
You know, you mentioned the quote, the shortest distance between two people is a story. When somebody asks me, for those of us who are performing artists, we come to a school, we go to a library, or
Yes.
maybe even a festival, and you interact with the people, and then they go on their way, and they never circle back.
Hmm.
I like to share this one story about how words can be healing.
Yes.
About 15 years ago, I was invited to go to the San Francisco Youth Guidance Center. It's a fancy name for a youth jail or youth juvenile center.
For those who don't know, right?
And
Like,
right, exactly. And it was on Martin Luther King's birthday.
mm,
So I went in, and about 17 young men and women between ages of 15 and 19 walked in and sat down in orange jumpsuits. The men wore orange jumpsuits. No, the men wore green jumpsuits. The women wore orange jumpsuits. And they sat down. And I did the dance of calling in the ancestors. I had my drum. So I did the dance of calling in the ancestors. And then I looked at them and I said, today, we are celebrating Martin Luther King for the legacy that he left us. At the same time, with Martin Luther King were Andrew Young and Rosa Parks and all of these people. We are now standing on their shoulders. What they did is what we now talk about and write about. And I said, in 50 years from now, in 100 years from now, somebody is going to stand on your shoulders.
mm,
Just like Rosa Parks stood up and said, I'm not going to the back of the bus. Just like those men went to the and went on strike and said, we're going to walk and we're not going to catch the bus because of what you have put Rosa Parks in jail. The men who walked across the Pittman Bridge, we are standing on their shoulders, and somebody's going to stand on your shoulders. Just because you are in this institution now, this is not your future. When you leave here, they will open the door and let you out and lock the door behind them. If you come back, they will use that same key to let you in and lock the door inside. However, when you leave here, you can choose to take your own key, lock the door behind you, and say, I am not coming back here. And change your life so that 100 years from now, somebody will stand on your shoulders, on your shoulders, on your shoulders. And I pointed to a few of them. And then I sang the song of yes. Yes, I am a human being. Yes, I deserve to be on this planet without apology. And yes, my thoughts and my words matter. Inde, 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 inde is the word for yes in my language. And I had them all standing and singing this song. Yes, I am a human being. Yes, I deserve to be here without apology. And yes, my thoughts and my words matter. 3 years after that assembly, I was at Stanford. I had gone there for a gig. I was putting up a speaker, and a young lady tapped me on the shoulders. I turned around, and she looked at me and she said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" I said, "No." She said, "The last time you saw me, I was in an orange jumpsuit. You came and spoke to us at the juvenile center, at the San Francisco Youth Guidance Center. You know what? When I went to my cell, I cried. Because for me, it wasn't about 50 years or 100 years down the road. I am 18 now. I was 16 then, and I already have had a child. And when I went to my cell, the question I asked myself, will my daughter be able to stand on my shoulders? This is my second time in juvie. Will my daughter be able to stand on my shoulders? And just like you told us, when they released me, I locked the door with my own key and I said, I'm not coming back here. And she said, no, 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 no. I'm not at Stanford because I'm coming to Stanford. But I am telling you that I am coming here to learn what it is like to be in university because I've just gotten my GED and I'm going to be the first person in my family to attend university. Thank you for your words. I was headed to adult prison or 6 feet under. I am now going to college. So words are powerful.
Yes.
Stories are powerful. I can share with you story after story after story of communities that have been transformed by stories, of individuals that have been transformed by stories. You know, yeah, because when you tell a story, you are inviting the audience into an experience.
Yes.
Yes, It might not be their experience, but it'll be an experience of somebody that they know.
Yes.
It might not be their experience, but it'll be something where they can go, oh, that could be me.
Hmm.
Or if I continue on this path, that could be me.
Yes.
And they decide, I'm going to go a new direction.
Hmm.
Just like we're doing in our 3-part series, I am going to create a new story.
Yes.
When I do my ancestor work, I say, yes, not all our ancestors were shining examples of humanity. Some were scoundrels,
Hmm.
drink, drugs,
Hmm.
abuse. But we can create a new story for
Yes.
our children, their children, their children, their children for 7 generations.
Yes.
We can break the chain of oppression. We can break the chain of racism. We can
Yes.
break the chain of abuse. We can break the chain of alcoholism. We can break all these chains by
Mhm.
creating a new story.
That's right.
So I know for myself, and I know that in the places where I have gone, and that, I have a page on TripAdvisor, which is my world map, where I add countries that I visit. And the last time I checked, it's 38 countries in
Mm.
198 cities
Mm.
where I've bought dance, music,
Mm.
storytelling. And in all of those, it's been, let's sit down. Tell me your story. I'll
Yes.
tell you my story. And let's see where our stories can take us.
Yes. You taking me to a place where all I have is to rock back and forth. Because I'm listening to you.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
you you know, you are showing up like you said. You embody your name. You take me, and I'm sure the
Yes,
listeners taking us to that place of freedom. There is that place within us that is free, that is expansive. And when we get too wrapped
right.
up in the appearance of things or the our intellect or the egoic mind and kind of like, but this is, we just kind of find ourselves where what we're seeing or experiencing feels like we're constricted or in bondage.
Mm-hmm,
It's hard to kind
mm-hmm,
of shake out
mm-hmm.
of that. But
It
in that
is.
same space, we can tell a different story. And the story doesn't,
Right.
I mean, definitely, I want to say it doesn't have to be made up. It can be made up, but if it's made up of what is true, what is common, what is universal. I'm listening to you now, and part of the experience I'm having, I don't have words for it, because I find myself feeling like I'm holding a vision that we become a world, or it doesn't take the world. The people that listen to this podcast and their family members and their
Mm-hmm,
friends and their co-workers,
mm-hmm.
that they take what they grab, what they hear on the podcast,
Yes,
and they commit to duplicating it for themselves.
for
If it
themselves.
doesn't work,
Right.
to augment it, to do it in a way that works for them, because there's something. I love that quote: "The shortest distance between two people is a story."
The people
When
is the story.
and the thing is, I'm sure you've watched American Idol. There's so many pop
Yeah.
idol. You have the American Got Talent, UK Got Talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do they
The
do if they want to
voice.
draw us in? They'll have a camera follow, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
They talk
Right.
about their family, their dad that wasn't there, they had a disease, or had
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before they actually perform the act, we're already connected to them. So when they say, "What are you going to
Exactly.
sing today?" And we
Right.
all like,
Yes.
for whatever reason, we start rooting for them. And then it's like,
Yeah.
if they ever get kicked off, we're like, "Oh my God, I so like them." But what we sometimes
Yeah.
miss is we've been hooked by the
Right.
story.
Your story.
And
Yeah.
it's stories divide us and stories unite us. We
Unite
get to
us.
choose.
We get to
And
choose. Yeah.
we certainly do. We certainly
Yeah.
do. And
Yes. Yes.
it's, do you think storytelling is a dying art?
It is not. Well, let me put it this way. It is not a dying art. It has the way that I look at it is that maybe it has been too replaced by television,
Mm,
streaming, and the big screen. Because
mm,
that's all, as you said, that's all storytelling.
yes.
What I wish we could continue to hold on to and grow is one person on a stage, sitting on a stool, standing up, and sharing with you, yes, once upon a time,
Hmm.
Brer Rabbit stories, Kalulu the clever hare, the rabbit the clever hare, you know, stories from each culture that I have gone to has their trickster. So
Yes,
stories about
yes.
the trickster.
Hmm.
Each culture that has gone to has stories about evil. Each
Mm,
culture that has gone to has stories about bravery.
mm,
So, what is a dying art is that one person on the stage sharing with you live, preferably, a
yeah.
story.
Mm,
And it could be a story of their life. As a storyteller, I tell stories of my life.
hmm.
Not that I had not that my life is important for people to hear, but because there are elements in my story that people go, wow. And people go, I connect with that.
Yes.
So, yes, so storytelling is not a dying art, but what is the storyteller on a stage sharing with you
Mm,
you know and I know that there are efforts. I belong to the National Storytelling Network, which is a nationwide organization in the USA. They have their annual storytelling festival in Jonesboro, Tennessee. I belong to the National Association of Black Storytellers. um, that has chapters all across the United States, in Atlanta, in Baltimore, in Los Angeles, in San Diego, in Tennessee, in Memphis, Tennessee. And every year they come together in one of those places, and people come together and share stories. So it's there. I just wish it was more there.
yeah. Yeah. And when you say you wish there was more, and I wonder it's because in a way, maybe consciously or unconsciously, we have been programmed, conditioned to miss the elements of sharing our stories because it's on a
Mhm.
screen.
Yes,
Or
yes,
sometimes people using that art to tell a story that's not true for their own hidden agenda. So as a part,
right.
there's a way that we listen to people's story, like, I don't know, is this the truth? So there's a sort of wall in
Right.
between us.
Hmm.
Because one of the things
Hmm.
coming up for me as I listen to you is when you tell the story of the young lady you spoke to when she was 16 and now she's 18 and coming back to you, where you deposited wisdom, insight,
Right.
promise,
Yes.
joy,
Yes.
peace, so much more of vision into her, and it
Hmm.
grew,
Yes.
and she decided to choose
Exactly.
freedom, right? And she came back to
Right.
you. The story you
Hmm.
told,
Hmm.
we can hear other people tell that story, and it doesn't make it
Right.
less powerful. For
Mm-mm.
me, is to hear it through your lens, your
Yes.
filter, is what
Hmm.
makes the whole thing
Hmm.
come alive.
Right.
So I also think in storytelling, it's the truth, the
Yes.
rawness, the insight,
Hmm.
the curiosity that we bring to it that makes it
Yes.
more impactful,
Exactly.
right? Because
Exactly.
sometimes all of us have a story. All of us have a
Oh,
story.
yeah.
Sometimes we
Everybody has a
have a story.
story.
That's why they say
Yeah,
everybody has a book in them, because you have a story.
exactly.
Life
Right.
itself is a
It's
never-ending
a
story.
story.
That's all it is. Life is
Yes.
stories. The
It's a
story in the
story.
beginning. There's so many creation
Hmm.
stories. I invite my listeners, Google creation stories on YouTube. You see
Right.
that there are many
Yes.
creation stories, not just
There are
one.
many.
It's not just God and
Mm-mm.
Adam and Eve. There are many. Every
Mm-mm.
culture, well, maybe not
Yeah.
every, but there are several out there. There are creation
Exactly.
stories, and it's stories. And it's the stories that hooks our minds and heart is what we live by, and we start telling that story and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Until one day someone challenges it, and then we're like, what the flip do you think you're doing? But if they can spend long enough to say, no, I'm not trying to take your story away from you, but I want to share with you that there is more.
Right.
Because sometimes we just want to drag people's story away from them. Like, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of it when I was in ministerial school. That was in 1998 or something like that in Hillside. And I remember sharing a story about growing up in Nigeria, about my first girlfriend.
Yes.
Now, it's not a story that I shared often, but in the class, the teacher asked something. And as I was sharing the story of this young lady who was my first girlfriend, I remember feeling like, I remember that what I missed out on, and what I was nervous about, what I was afraid to say, what I couldn't do, what I wanted to do, and what I was, some things I was afraid to do. But if I did it and I get caught up in trouble, but I really wanted to do it, but I wish I did. I was feeling all of that, right? And I was feeling how much in that moment, just feeling her, remembering her. And when I told the story, well, it wasn't understood, but it was a story. The teacher said,
Mm-hmm.
that's just puppy love. I was grown. I was an adult. I felt crunched.
Yes.
He just took my story and said it
Story
didn't mean
and
anything.
yeah.
So it's like we have a responsibility to one another. I'm not talking about people going around
Yes.
saying, "Oh my God, that's so fascinating." If you're feeling that, sometimes someone can tell you stories like, "Oh, I see." No, but if we bring heart and soul to one another, which is that's the simplicity of life. We can heal ourselves. We are the healers we're looking for. We are the answers. We are the ones we're seeking. We have the
That's
information.
right.
Our ancestors live in us. If we're just willing to tell our stories, whether you grew up in a house where you're traumatized day after day after day, and what's your story now? And even if your story is, I'm looking for a way to heal. I'm looking for a way to believe in life again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
even that will touch somebody.
Even that. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
You got
No,
it. Just talk. I'm not
exactly.
gonna have no questions. I'm
Exactly.
full.
Exactly.
Mm,
You know, um, very often I say to people in Chichewa, which is the language that is spoken in Malawi, um, when somebody meets you, they don't often say, "What is your name?"
mm,
We read, we do have, I mean, if you literally translate that, eh, Dzina lako ndiwe ndani, that is, what is your name? But many times people say, "Who are you?"
mm,
Because we understand that all your name represents is the person that you are.
yes.
Your name is the first page of a story.
Mhm.
Your name are the opening credits of a film. Your
Yes.
name are the first tones of a hit song.
Mm.
And so we have a desire that is
Go ahead. Go
often
ahead.
not met
Mm, mm.
to share who we are, to
Yes.
share where we come from,
Mm,
to share the things that shaped us into the young adult,
mm.
middle aged, gray haired person that I am today.
Yes.
There are many, many stories. Yes, you're right. You know, all of us are a book just waiting to be written.
Yes.
All of us are a podcast waiting to be shared with the world.
Yes.
All of us are an Instagram post or a
Mm,
TikTok, you know,
mm,
or whatever it is.
mm,
But it's all there.
mm,
You know, when I jump on a plane, my tendency is, I've got my iPhone and I've loaded it with movies, my iPad or whatever. But every now and then I go, hi, where are you coming from?
mm.
And that becomes the opening line to an
Yes.
amazing story. I
Yes.
don't know if you've heard the story of two people. One person has just lost a nephew. Yeah, so one person has just lost a nephew, and the nephew is on life support,
Mm,
and another person is going to give part of her, either a kidney or part of their liver, to a sister.
mm,
And these two people are sitting next to each other on a plane. Okay, the person who's going to give the kidney or liver is reading a medical journal.
mm,
So the passenger says, are you a doctor? Are you studying to become a doctor? And she looks at him and goes, no, I'm reading about this because I'm about to go and give my, I forget whether it was part of her liver or kidney, to my sister.
mm.
The man goes, no way. My nephew is on life support, and I'm going to be with my sister to help her make the decision to remove life support because the doctor said there's nothing more they can do. And they're going to the same city.
Mm.
Long story short, it ended up that this guy's nephew gave that organ to this lady's sister. So she did not have to give up one of hers. And it's only because they
Patience.
had a conversation.
Mm,
Now, I'm not
mm.
saying that turn around to everybody that you meet on the plane and, talk to them because it's going to be some kind of life-altering transformation. But
Yes.
I'm saying
Mm,
when
mm.
there's an opening to
Yes.
share your story and hear another person's story, don't close that opening.
Yes.
Keep our channels of communication open. In
Yes.
this world we are living in now,
Mm,
more so than at any other time, we need to be talking to each other.
mm.
People from Africa with people from Asia, people from America with people from Europe, people who are Hindu with people who are Christians, people who are Buddhist with people who are gay with people who are straight. We
Yes.
all need to be talking to each other because it is in the conversation that we learn. It
Yes.
is in the conversation that we grow.
Mm,
It is in the conversation that we find out that we are more alike than we are unalike.
yes.
We have more in common than we have that separates us.
Yes.
It just takes a conversation. I know at my very core that all of us are human beings seeking comfort, seeking peace, seeking to go from where we are to where we know we can be.
Mm,
Unfortunately, sometimes the paths chosen suppress other people. The
mm.
paths chosen take the life,
Yes.
take the resources,
Yes.
take the wherewithal.
Yes.
But if we understand that the only thing that separates one person from another is this that can hardly even be measured in
Mm.
terms of thickness.
Yes.
Under this, we are all the same.
Yes.
Under this, we are all the same. And
Mm.
what it takes is a story,
The
a
story.
song. You know, I see our sister Shoinka is
Yes.
has tuned in.
Yeah.
The songs that she sings. My body and your body are one in divine. When
Yes.
we come together, we can, I forget,
Tap into,
tap into
into
love.
love.
Okay?
Yes.
My body and your body are one in divine.
Yes. Mm.
So, the question that you posed in terms of why and why is this important? Because we each have a story that we want to share with another person.
Yes, indeed.
We each have a story, and so that is why I say let's make sure that we don't relegate stories to television and film.
Yes.
Let's keep the heart, let's keep the physical
Yes.
going. Let's
Yes.
visit each other and
Mm.
share stories with each other
Yes.
because that is the only way we are going to avoid human self destruction.
Yes.
One of the
Yes.
things that this pandemic has taught us, coming back to that, is that it does not honor borders. This
Mm.
pandemic doesn't need a visa. This pandemic doesn't need a passport. This
Yep.
pandemic doesn't need a green card.
That's right.
All it needs is
You
air
can't
to
deport
travel.
it.
You see?
It imports itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay duty, it doesn't pay customs. It just comes in.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So it has shown us that if anybody goes, oh, we are top of the food chain, what?
Yeah.
Huh? The Prime Minister of the UK was in ICU
Mm-hmm.
with all of the resources of the NHM or National Health, whatever,
NHS. Yeah.
NHS, but he was in ICU.
Mm-hmm.
Malawi has lost, I mean, not Malawi, Africa has
Mm-hmm.
lost prime ministers, has lost presidents.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to talk to each other. We
Yes.
need to hear each other's stories.
Yes.
Yes, there are those of us who are quote unquote professional storytellers. The thing that divides us is that when I get on a stage and tell a story, somebody gives me a check or sends money to my PayPal. But that's about the only difference. And that's
Yes.
because I've chosen to make that my career.
Mm-hmm.
But each one of us has a story. Each
Mm-hmm.
one of us must share our stories
Mm-hmm.
because that's how we grow.
Yes.
That's how we connect.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we that's how we make meaning from
That's
life.
right. That's right.
That's how we make meaning from life.
Woo! You're taking me on a journey. And yes. When we connect heart to heart, mind to mind, soul to soul, healing
That's
happens.
right.
We don't
That's
even have to
right.
have the words. You talked
Mm-mm.
about everybody having a
Mm-mm.
story, and the difference between you and other people is you get a check. I think it's important for people to also know that, of course, they got to do their own individual work to know that whatever, however they perceive their story, it matters.
Yes.
Because each and every one of us
Yes.
literally on a book on legs. And the skin, as you were saying earlier,
That's
is just a
right.
book cover. It's the book cover.
That's right.
And the book
Yes.
cover, the skin, does have its own story. If the skin can
Right.
talk, how about we write that story or tell that story? If the skin can talk, what would
If
it
the
say?
skin
That would be
can
like another
talk.
version of the vagina
Woo!
monologue. We have
Right,
if the
right.
skin can talk,
Yes.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and in those stories, somebody who doesn't look like, or someone who's on the one spectrum of the melanin, maybe more on the brighter side,
Right.
will tell their story,
Exactly.
and someone on the darker side of the melanin is like,
Exactly.
oh my god, that's like my story, and we recognize that we've been distracted.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's also important for people to recognize that the story matters. There are no
The
small
story
stories.
matters.
There are no insignificant stories. What you
None.
contribute, what you see, what you hear, how you see it, how you hear it matters. It's
Yes.
important. Or else there are
That's
many
right.
pages missing in this book of life. And we're like, oh, there's a blank page. You know, I bought some books before where I open there's a blank page, and then I go get
It's a
this. It's
blank
like, what
page.
happened? How did this pass anybody? So when we don't add our stories, we the book of life has blank pages, and so either we think,
Right.
oh, now sometimes I found out when it happened to me once that the pages where there was the content, they tied together. But sometimes there's
Right.
nothing. Oh, so what happened? And we
Exactly.
are the storytellers, we're the healers, we're the uniters, we're the one connecting it
Mm-hmm.
all, weaving the story
Mm-hmm.
called humanity.
Yes.
And if we play down our story, we play down our lives. If we play down lives, we make room for disconnection. We got a few minutes to go, and
That's
I
right.
want to just go back to the naming ceremony, and and also
Yes.
maybe touch on African spirituality, because sometimes it's demonized, not looked as valuable. And when you share your story of your ancestors, of your elders, for me, it's kind of like I remember when I moved to America and going to a New Thought church or going to New Thought centers and listening. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, New Thought. But over the
Right.
years, I realized New Thought is actually an expression of ancient wisdom that my ancestors lived.
Right.
So new wasn't something
Exactly.
that hasn't been said before, thought before. New is
No.
a revelation
No.
of something that was always there, but we didn't
It was
see.
always there.
It was
Exactly.
always there,
Exactly.
still is.
Yeah.
New is not
Mm-hmm.
something that hasn't happened. It's already happened. You just haven't seen it.
No.
You, the
It's right.
scientist, would discover it when you tell a story like, whew, I'm just catching it as I tell the story. So, what
Right.
is the process
Yes.
of naming? I'm feeling all sorts. So, but I want to come back to this naming term. What is the process of naming a child in your country, and your thoughts about African spirituality? They're two
Well,
different questions, but I just put them together because you're a storyteller, and I
right.
know you weave it together.
Right. Naming a child, as I said, my name, children are named because of something that's going to, something that is happening at the time that they are born as an indication of how their life will unfold.
Mm.
And I've just learned that it's also as an indication of how you don't want their life to unfold. Because there
Mm.
are some children who are called, for example, Mavuto. Mavuto means trouble.
Mm.
So if a child is named Mavuto, that means something at the time that the child was born was problematic.
Mm.
And so they name that child as closing the gate
Mm.
on that
Mm.
and wanting the opposite to happen.
Mm.
Now, there's many
So
different ways,
they name the child's trouble
right?
because they're affirming the opposite happening, right?
Right. So they're affirming that the opposite is what will unfold in the
Yeah.
child's, and we're looking at that and saying, well, is that, I mean, is that the best way to, maybe we are burdening the child with something that they'll never be able to overcome. So we are
Mm-hmm.
looking at that. But
Mm.
children are named, there's sometimes a naming ceremony. So even when the mother is in utero, she
Mm-hmm.
will go together with the elders and they will sit in council and say, okay, what is the destination of this child?
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, they will name the child the name that comes to them. Sometimes it's, well, this child is going to continue the legacy of his grandfather. So let's give him his grandfather's name. Or this child is going to continue the legacy of the grandmother or the mother. And so there's different things that are done to ensure that the name that the child is given supports how their life will unfold. Now, African spirituality, I've always maintained that we always prayed,
Yes.
but we didn't pray in a church. We prayed by the lake. We
Mm-hmm.
prayed in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
We always sang hymns of praise because we knew that there was an entity that had created us that we could not see. Maybe what might be missing in our narrative is Jesus. I'm not quite sure, and I still need to find out where Jesus falls into that narrative. So, what Christianity did was it took prayer from the trees and built pews and put it indoors.
Mm-hmm.
It took the drums and the dance and turned it into an organ and polite leaping, leaping, legs from the da 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 da. No, if you're gonna sing about leaping, leap. If you're gonna sing about dancing, dance.
Yes.
So African spirituality understands the concept of a God who created the world. Namalenga, we have a word for it in our language. Namalenga, the one who created. So
Mm.
we understand that. So African spirituality is not this mysterious thing out there that needs to be feared. No.
Mm.
African spirituality is our understanding that when we sing at night, when the fire is burning, we are giving praise. It's not only if you have a candle on a nice votive. No, we understand that when we beat the drums,
Yes.
we understand that that is our direct
Mm.
communication to the
Yes.
divine. So
Yes.
African spirituality is our communication through
Mm.
dance, through
Mm.
song, through music. I mean, through through dance, through song, through story.
Stories. Yeah.
That which to that and to who to that being that created us, that has
Yeah.
no form, that
Yes.
being that created us, that controls night and day, that controls the tides. We understand all of that.
Mm.
But it's been made into this thing. It's like, no, no. Just because it doesn't have the name Catholic or it doesn't have the name Church of England does not discredit
Exactly.
our understanding of God. As I say, and maybe it can be a conversation for another day, where I need to connect is where Jesus falls into that narrative. But even that, we understand. Yesu, Yesu, we understand. Mwana wa Mulungu, the child of God. We understand that. So yeah, so that's, for me, that's what I understand about, naming. There's ways in which children are named. Now, again, talking about, when I was being baptized in the church, in the Presbyterian tradition, a child is baptized, that brings them into the presence of God. My reverend said to my father, "Oh, you want to name your child Masankho? That is not a Christian name. You need to baptize him Michael." And my father said, "No." My mother said, "No. We have named our child Masankho. We have brought him here for you to baptize him
Mm.
as Masankho, not Michael, not
Yeah,
John."
right.
And I'm so glad. I mean, I
Yes,
don't
me
even
too.
know the kind of the Michael I would have been,
Mm.
but I sure love the Masankho that I have turned out to be.
Yes, indeed. I sure
That
love
was
the
where,
banger that you turned out to
yes,
be too.
right, right. So that was where African spirituality clashed with Christianity.
Yeah,
No, it has to be something that is in the New Testament. Masankho is our child's name. Baptize him as such.
exactly.
That did not make me a bad Christian. That
Mm.
did not make me a heathen. No, that is my name.
You always blow me away. You always blow me away. And I mean, I'm not just saying that, you always blow me away. There's some things that I have in my head that I won't say, but I'll tell you next time when we meet, actually tomorrow. Yeah, but I'm not saying that here. You always blow me away, and I am so grateful for you. I'm so, so grateful. I listened to just the part about where Jesus came in, and what came up for me is, what if Jesus, not to say Jesus didn't, I mean, there's a historic Jesus, and
Right,
there's an
right.
embodiment of the God
Of,
Jesus.
of, right, exactly. Right,
And
right.
every culture they have their own Jesus. Just as there are many cultural creation stories,
Mm-hmm,
and most
mm-hmm,
of them are all
mm-hmm,
about this being or magic egg that became.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's a video on YouTube, pretty powerful, and I think it's called the Many Creation Stories or something. People can Google it. There's so
Right.
much more to this thing called life, and I'm just gonna stop now because I'm telling you, this I've been saying this, like, life is like an all-you-can-eat restaurant, and the guests
Right.
and the conversations that I'm having, I feel like I'm sitting at a restaurant, and the universe, life, God, the divine, the host is saying, or the guest is saying, this is all you can eat. I feel so fed right now. I feel so fed that I just feel like I'll be just repeating what you've said. I'm like, he said that already. He said that already. He said that already. My brother, thank you.
My brother, thank you.
Thank you. This has been a blessing. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the window
Yeah.
to share our
The,
stories,
to share our
to
stories.
share our
Exactly.
truth.
I'm looking forward to
Yes, yes,
Saturday when we catch a new vision, a
yes,
vision for a new generation together.
exactly.
And I even look forward
Exactly.
to hear what you're gonna bring, because it's like in a meeting
Right,
you'd be like, yeah,
right.
yeah, we can do that. And then on the day I'm like, whoa! Thank you, my brother. Peace and blessings.
You're so welcome. Thank
Mm,
you. And thank you, audience, for being there. Thank you, thank you,
yes.
thank you for taking your time.
Hmm.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, my brother. Woo wee! I am fed. I am moved. I am touched. I am touched by the power we have individually to wake something up in one another, that we may see each other. Find out more about Masankho, go to his website. You can dance without the E. You can CANDANC.org. Or just Google him. There's a TED talk out there, and it talks about the unfit boy or something like that. It's a beautiful story where you get to tell your own story when people ignore you. check it out. Just type his name, Masankho Banda, and you see it out there. Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this space. Thank you, Sati, for all you're doing in the background. Thank you, listeners, those of you in the chat room, those of you who are listening but not saying anything. Thank you all for being here. Join me tomorrow night, well, tomorrow evening for some of you, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. UK time, with Ricky Byers for Soulful Feeling. YouTube.com/Ricky Byers. Go to my website, lifecoachade.com, sign my mailing list. And if you want to kind of deepen the aha moment, the shift, or maybe you feel like your story doesn't matter, you really want to, you're kind of tempted to kind of look a little bit deeper, lifecoachade.com. I'm so grateful to have you. I think that's everything that I need to say. And if there are other things that I need to say that I didn't say, I'm sure your heart will reveal it to you. I am moved. I'm grateful. I am present. I am here. I am now. I feel like there's something else I need to say, but I don't know what it is. But, we don't have to know intellectually. The heart knows. The soul knows. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Now, remember, right now, for some time, a short period of time, Being You, the podcast, is first Tuesday of the month and the first and third Tuesday of the month. And then we'll resume normal schedule later on, I think. Take a breath. Take a breath. And whatever you got from this conversation, put it into action. Practice it. Use it so you can embody it. Not just, oh, that was great. Yeah, it was great, but deepen it. Embody it. Live it. Share the show. Like it. As I said, this year we're spreading our story so that other people can heal, develop, transform, and grow and evolve. We need each other. Why? We are each other. I will see you tomorrow night for the special episode of Representing Our Ancestors, Representing Our Stories. Make sure you go sign up. It's the link is bit.ly/represent vision. It's coming this Saturday, June 19th, 2021, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. Masankho is going to be there. Queen Michelle is going to be there. I am, of course, there. And you're going to be there. Together, we're going to catch a vision of a new generation. We are the ones we've been looking for. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We are our ancestors. You heard me say this. You are the selfie of your ancestors. You are what your ancestors look like, feel like. Whatever the story, you get to heal it, especially the ones you don't like, the ones you run from. Something I want to say about Masankho, well, not about Masankho, but something he said about naming the child Trouble, and there's a way to avoid it happening again. What came up for me was sometimes you gotta name the thing you're running from. You gotta name that thing that's in the dark. Oftentimes we don't want to name it and it just keeps chasing us. But when we're bold enough to stop and name it and look at it, it goes, oh, you're ready to pay attention. Well, I just want to tell you that in order to experience fullness and abundance, you have to embrace the darkness and the light. And you're like, what? Get out of here. I just want to be with the light. Well, the doctors will tell you, you're incomplete. It's the yin and yang of life. And as you embrace both, when you name it, when you call a child Trouble, you're bringing it to the light so that it can feel seen, so that it can know that it is recognized. Show up, be seen, so you can show out. I'm out. Peace and blessings. Thank you, Sati. Once again, share the love. I'm looking for what I'm playing. Why am I seeing something different here? Oh, it's because I didn't go down long enough. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm out. Even if it looks like I'm not doing what I didn't know what I was doing. Doesn't matter. It's all part of the story. Peace and blessings.
Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah. you.